We're gonna have a good day.
Yeah.
This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun show.
Hooray for Friday.
You guys are live.
Oh, hi
See
everybody.
if I can get our Instagram peeps up.
Oh, there we are.
Better sit up straight.
Sorry, what are you talking about?
You need more pillows.
Are just going to wait a little bit while everyone jumps on and joins. We're all a little emotional today because we have an employee who's leaving us today. It's their last day, who's been here for a very long time.
And then Danny is showing us baby bunnies.
And then Danny's showing us baby bunnies. Emily's like way on the verge. If somebody says something today, she might just like
Only good vibes today, guys.
Oh, Danny in CS is on duty. Hi from Twin Falls. That's our Danny Romero.
I love Dean.
We've got some people joining from Instagram. Oil lover Olivia says good morning. C Penland 4 says hi friends. You had me at Aloha says what is plant therapy? So you're about to find out. Eco Letty DIY says hello from California. Hello, happy Friday.
So many people on Facebook and YouTube. We have, let's see, Sandy says hello from Vermont. Michelle says good morning from New York. Happy to Plan Mom says hello, Connie from North Carolina. Let's see.
Oh, Jill says hi from the Oregon coast, and I just really want to go to the Oregon coast this summer, so I'm just throwing that out there. That's the vibes that I need.
That
everyone
is the vibe
can
she needs.
send it my way.
Do it now.
I'll
I
come
did think
visit
it
you.
was quite beautiful to have like full on like forest, like mountain, and then the ocean.
Yes.
When I was a kid, so I grew up in California and then Washington. And so regardless where we were, we always went to the Oregon coast every summer, and it's just so beautiful. The gorge is like
yes.
my soul place.
I know, and as soon
it so
as you
much
go
every
through
day.
there, you're just like.
It smells
Yes.
so good. It feels so good. It's so beautiful there.
So Jill, when are you ready to have us?
You didn't realize, but you have multiple people going to come stay with you now. Oh, well, thanks for joining, everyone. Oh, Paula grew up in California and Washington, too.
Oh,
Awesome. Aloha from Maui.
I will come visit you in Maui too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really, all these places.
Who else
I'm
wants
ready
us?
to travel.
Yes.
That's what I want to know. Who else wants us? Oh, that's fantastic. This morning, we are going to be talking about ingesting essential oils. And it gets brought up probably on, I don't know, every single one of our lives. Because it's a question that we get a lot. And so I think the three of us are really passionate about this subject.
Yes.
I especially am. And they might especially, but I can't talk for them. I'm especially passionate about this because it's a topic that we could really spend multiple lives addressing. But we will simplify it to the best of our abilities on this one and address as many questions that we have. So that's what we're going to be talking about today is ingesting essential oils. And we did ask, anybody bring those questions?
Oh, I can find them.
Okay, Emily's going to pull them up. We did ask on social media and for everyone to send in their questions. So we have some questions that we'll start with, but if any of those who are watching live have any questions for us, please leave them in the comment section and we will hopefully have time to get to them. But really fast, it looks like Alicia, the mouse is over it. Yeah. Drop Teeny. Oh, says just tried the mango. Jesse's waving to us. Just tried the mango CBD this morning. Best flavor.
It is so good.
It is so good. So glad you love it. It really does taste like mangoes.
It really
if
does.
you like mangoes, you will love the mango CBD.
Yes. So, some of our questions about ingestion. The first one says, I am scared to ingest essential oils, even though other brands encourage it. Is it toxic to ingest things like peppermint oil or turmeric oil?
I think we should just start with our general guidelines, how we feel about ingesting essential oils. We take the stance that we
here at Plant Therapy do not recommend the ingestion of essential oils unless it's under the care of a medical doctor who's also a clinical aromatherapist. And that's coming from the International Federation of Aromatherapists. That's their guideline that we choose to follow. It is not at all related to the quality of our oils. And I think that is where a lot of people get confused. I mean, even people who I talk to, like friends that I have, feel like they cannot purchase our oils because we don't say that it's okay to ingest them. And that's simply not the reason why. It's not the quality of our oils that's causing us to say that we're not recommending ingestion. It's just ingesting essential oils needs to be done with such care and really under somebody with a huge amount of experience in that area. And additionally, we don't classify our oils as supplements, and that is a huge factor as well. The FDA does have quite a long list of essential oils that are GRAS, so generally recognized as safe, and those are ones that you see in Those
are the ones you see in Flood.
In Flood flavorings, in drink flavorings. But just because an essential oil is GRAS doesn't mean you should drink it regularly.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference ingesting essential oils as food flavoring and ingesting essential oils for medicinal purposes. And so I think a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, and often what we get questions around, is the ingesting essential oils for medicinal purposes. And that is where, and not only do we take that stance, that it's just not recommended unless you are under the supervision. Oh my goodness, we're gonna have a hard time today.
I'm shedding off my poor speaking to you guys.
Someone who's qualified to administer essential oils that way, truly it is not needed. It just isn't. I have a mom who's a certified aromatherapist. I grew up using essential oils, and I can think of like 2 reasons my whole entire life that someone who was educated, an aromatherapist myself, grew up using it 2 times my whole entire life that I chose to ingest essential oils. And I could have not. So that's a thing, right? One of them was super related to like a lot of anxiety, and there are other ways that I had done some studies, and so I wanted to try this certain way, and it worked great, but there are other ways that also work great. So 2 times my whole entire life that I was like, I feel like I need it to work quicker, I feel like I want it to be, and I chose to. But you really just don't need to. Right. Like, it is very, very rare. We often see, Katrina brought up like adding essential oils to your water, and that's a huge no-no, like, no matter what essential oil it is a huge no-no to add essential oils to your water. And there's truly, there's no benefit to it.
Benefits are so minimal, and it's so easy to do it in a way that could cause harm to your body. So adding essential oils to your water, for example, you're not diluting anything, and so when you take those oils internally, you can really cause some damage to some of your internal organs, things like that. Then you also have to consider that some essential oils have pretty significant safety side effects when taken internally. So thinking of like wintergreen, it's a blood thinner, and if you take it internally, it's really going to cause some problems for you. So it's important to keep that in mind as well, is that 1, it's not very beneficial, and 2, it can cause a lot of harm.
I think peppermint is a good example. So peppermint has a low dermal rate. What do we recommend for peppermint? A 1% or a 2%? It's pretty low for a topical application. Then you have people that want to argue it's okay to put in your water. So if we're saying it's safe to use topically at 2%, but then somebody's taking it in very literally 100% completely concentrated, putting it in their mouth with all of the very sensitive and delicate mucous membranes, your gum line, your esophagus, it is going to get in contact with that completely undiluted essential oil that is already, we're saying, it could be a skin irritant.
Yeah.
We recommend a really high dilution rate for it, and it just really, my brain explodes a little bit sometimes when people aren't quite making that relationship.
Yeah, this is my favorite. When you see someone who does this test that shows if it is a pure oil, and they put lemon in like a styrofoam cup or some plastic cup, and the lemon essential oil like burns or eats it away, like it will completely dissolve the cup, and they say this is a pure essential oil, and then that same person says add essential oils to your water and drink them. And I think that's the one that I'm just like, I'm going to need a minute. I'm going to need a minute to process how that makes sense. And I'm not comparing, a styrofoam cup to, my mouth, the sensitive mucous membranes. Like, I realize they're not made up of the same thing, but you see the intensity of this super concentrated oil and what it can do to styrofoam or plastic.
Yeah, I actually was going through one of our retain areas a few years ago. It was when we had moved locations, and in those areas with our oil retains, they were in these plastic like totes, bins, and I pulled one out, and some oil had spilled over, and it just ate through the entire thick wall of plastic and was a huge hole in the bottom. And it's insane to see that and then think it's okay to ingest in water.
Yeah.
Anna says, I've seen my oils melt bubble wrap, not putting them in my mouth. And I absolutely agree. And you may come across people, I know I have, who get very aggressive with their feelings that it is okay to ingest.
Yeah.
I think we got a question. How can I respond when someone suggests ingesting essential oils and I'm not sure about it? How can you approach that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think just learning about essential oils and understanding looking at both sides and the reasoning for things, and then I mean, people have to make their own decisions, right? Like, we can sit here and say this whole time it is something that we for sure do not recommend, especially when not done correctly, like adding essential oils to your water, right? There are ways that are much safer to do it, and that it can be done, but we can talk about that in a minute. But I think just really doing that research and then talking to what makes the most sense to you, right? It's going to be really hard to change someone's mind. So I think just explaining your standpoint and the research you've done and why you choose not to, and then just let it be.
And when talking about research, I mean, and I think this even applies to plant therapy, don't rely on a company to tell you exactly what to do. I mean, there are several international aromatherapy committees that take a similar stance, and that's really where you should be justifying your reasoning. Not so much plant therapy says this. Well, that's fine because XYZ company says this.
Yeah.
There are, I mean, the field of aromatherapy is expansive, and there are so many amazing experts, chemists, scientists, botanists, that really contribute to these, like NAHA, the International Federation of Aromatherapy, that take stances and present information, and that is an excellent resource to learn more. So it is okay to look at the differences of what companies are saying, but we get our information, from these more expert sources, as well as, from our own experience too. So pay attention to where you're getting your information and if it's credible or not.
And I've had experiences where, people just don't know. I mean, they've been told by so-and-so that adding lemon to their water is fine and it's really good for you. And when you sit down and you have those conversations and you talk about these things that could potentially happen from taking those products internally in that manner, it really helps them have a better understanding. So I think if you come to the table with some of that outside research and just share some of the fact-based information, it goes a long way. Of course, some people are very, set in their ways, and it does become, more difficult to sway them, but it really is your safety that is most concerning, and you can only impact them, as much as you can.
I love what Tiffany Rose said. She says, just use fresh lemon. And exactly, the argument against putting a drop or two of lemon into water, take a lemon, put it into slices, and put it in your water. The essential oils are coming from that peel. And so when you have the actual fruit, you're still getting those benefits and not putting yourself at risk, because it is not a massive concentration. It takes so much plant matter to create even a single drop of essential oil. And if you're wanting to just freshen up your water, if you're wanting, peppermint, lemon, orange, use those plants.
Or even the therapeutic benefits that can come from that, right? The medicinal benefits, even those you're going to get from the peel of the fruit, because that's where the essential oil comes from. So you can do that same thing and not have any of the worry about the possible risks of using the essential oil. So you can get the exact same benefits. It's probably going to taste a heck of a lot better because lemon essential oil does not taste good. It comes from the rind. It's like you eating the peel of the lemon, right? Like, and an intense amount. It's not just, you're like doing a little bit in your whole food or something, right? It's an intense amount that you're adding. So it just doesn't taste good. Like, there are just a lot of better ways to use it. And when you ingest essential oils for medicinal purposes, you ingest a lot, which means you are using a lot more oil. And so it's also really a complete waste of money too by doing it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people don't have an understanding of how some of the other methods work and how impactful they are on your well-being. So one thing that we talk about a lot...
We're waving bye to Danny. Bye, Danny.
He was trying to sneak out and anyways, one thing that we talk about a lot is how essential oils impact our brain just through scent alone. So when you inhale an essential oil, it travels directly to your limbic system where it impacts things like emotion and memory storage and all of those amazing things that you just get from inhalation. So when you're seeing those kind of benefits in a much more gentle method of use, it makes so much more sense when you're weighing the pros and the cons, the risk versus the reward, to do some of those gentler therapies that don't have as significant of safety concerns.
There was, is there an EO injury reporting website? I looked at it this morning, and I cannot remember off the top of my head. So hopefully
There is.
I think we can put it into a blog or something. However, so I went through some reports from 2018, specifically on ingesting oils. And while there isn't a lot of data, and I think that's another important thing to consider, there's not a lot or really any clinical data showing long-term use of ingesting versus topical or inhalation. So a lot of the information comes from anecdotal stories, or from people who may not be qualified, giving their opinions on it. But anyway, going back to some of the cases I looked at, a lot of the common concerns you'll see from people who had ingested essential oils kind of mirrors toxicity reports. I mean, it's nausea, lightheadedness, exhaustion, just like those feelings, not even looking at the damage that could actually be happening internally. Oh, there was another report that I saw, and this is a rare case, of course, and not meant to scare you, but something to keep in mind.
She's like, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm going to do it anyway because I think this is important. Somebody who had been repeatedly ingesting peppermint. The lining on their esophagus, they had formed a very small pocket within their esophagus, like a crevice. And in that crevice could store, little pieces of rice, little bits of oatmeal. And because of that, once a month, I believe, they were having to go into the emergency room, into their doctor and get it flushed out. So it didn't get infected. And that, it makes sense if you are taking something so strong every day, undiluted, completely the concentrated material, and looking at how delicate our insides are and putting them through it. It's just such a high risk. Yeah. There are plenty of people who may not experience any adverse reactions, especially immediately. You don't know what's going to happen over time, though, and you don't know how your body's going to react.
And it's not needed.
Yes.
That's what I want to keep reiterating. There are other ways to use the essential oils that you can get the same therapeutic benefits, probably 99% of the time, right? There might be some cases where it's whatever, and some expert is going to recommend this type of ingestion, but I can guarantee if they are an expert, they're not going to recommend it be in water. It's going to be it's going to be in an appropriate way, and maybe we could talk about that a little bit later. But it's just not needed most of the time, and so why?
Yeah,
Why
and when
take
you're
those risks?
when you're ingesting essential oils through these methods, one thing that people don't often think about is it increases your risk for sensitization.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it becomes really difficult to pinpoint where it came from, right? So if you're taking lemon internally and you stop, but you've already created that kind of adverse reaction, you'll continue to see sensitivity over time. So even if you're just applying it topically, you can start to see things like rashes and irritation. The rash could be systemic, so it may not even occur at the area where you applied the essential oil. So really, adding that kind of concentrated amount of essential oil into your system can really cause some long-term effects that you can't really come back from.
Okay, let's get to Em's going to pull up some of these questions right here. I'm looking through and I haven't really seen any questions related to ingesting essential oils on the live, but Em's going to pull up the ones that we received.
We've covered most of them,
Okay.
but one person did ask what oils can we ingest. So maybe we could talk a little bit about, ingesting in a safe way.
I do remember seeing, and I don't know if it was on there, if it was someone else, but I do remember seeing someone say, is there a test that can be done to show if an oil is of the quality to ingest it? So I thought that was an interesting comment. And like Katrina mentioned earlier, ingesting essential oil really has nothing to do with the quality. Of course, you aren't going to want to ingest something that's, has additives and synthetics and things like that, just because you aren't going to know what's in there, right? But essential oils are used in food flavoring all around the world, in your Coca-Cola, in your Sucker, right? These are essential oils. But what's interesting is these are not like the essential oils that you are using topically. These essential oils have gone through multiple distillations to remove most of the constituents that make them therapeutic, and it's just keeping the constituents that really add to the taste. So that's something that from like a test that would show the quality of the oil. If we tested that, we would say that's not a good quality, we aren't selling that at Plant Therapy. But that's the one that's safe to add to those foods, right? So it's not about the quality really that should be concerning, or if there's any tests or anything like that. It's really just the fact that they are so highly concentrated and are full of hundreds of chemical constituents, and it just doesn't make sense to ingest. Okay, so back to that question.
Yeah, so how, if you did want to approach using essential oils through ingestion, how would we recommend approaching that?
I would say first probably start with the FDA's GRAS status, so the generally recognized as safe. Those are the essential oils that the FDA says, but I do want to add that the FDA, if you look it up, it specifically says generally recognized as safe as food flavoring, not medicinal use. So completely two separate things. The FDA does have a list of essential oils that they say are generally safe to use in food flavoring. So that's where I would start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that some of the resources that Katrina mentioned earlier, NAHA, for example, you can actually find aromatherapists that are clinically certified. Mm-hmm. And that may be a good starting point as well if you're looking to ingest essential oils. Visiting the website and looking for someone who can assist you on your journey of ingestion, because it is really important to have somebody who is educated and knows how to properly administer them in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to see if we have any questions here.
There was a question a bit earlier about oil pulling. I don't know if either of you two have a lot of experience with this. I love oil pulling, and I don't do it anymore because it's a pain.
I mean, it's a lot of work.
So for anybody who doesn't know, oil pulling is when you take it could be about a tablespoon of a coconut oil is usually what's recommended, and you swish it in your mouth for 15 to 20 minutes, you spit it out. It's allegedly supposed to help pull out toxins, things like that. And I found it to be excellent for cleaning and whitening. I drink a ton of coffee and tea. I went to the dentist and they were like, man, you don't drink any tea or anything, do you? I'm like, every day I do.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. But there are places that recommend when you're oil pulling to maybe add a drop of peppermint is popular, or a drop of clove is popular too. I have tried that. While it does kind of, freshen
Your breath.
freshen up your breath, I don't find that it actually makes too big of a difference. But this is just, my experience with it. But it is very different than ingesting essential oils, though. One, you are diluting it down extremely, and then you're also spitting it out. So it's not anything that you're swallowing. So I just want to make sure we touched on that.
I think that's it.
Is FCO okay for oil pulling? Absolutely.
Yeah. How often would you recommend to do it?
Usually, for like it to really work, it's every day. And that's why it's kind of a whew. But even a couple times a week.
It's so hard.
It
too.
is.
It's hard
It's
to
hard
do
to
that
just-
for a long time. I think the longest I've been able to oil pull is for like 6 minutes. I could never get up to the 15-minute mark.
Yeah, sometimes if you want to do it like before a shower, that helps because you can't spit it out in the drain. Always spit it out in the garbage too. Okay, sorry, that was off topic. I just really like oil pulling.
Carol says, a bit controversial here, but inquiring minds. There has been a lot of talk about how to detox after being recently vaccinated or around a vaccinated person. Any recommendations here? So I am not going to be the correct person to answer that one, so I hope I didn't read it with none of us.
About detoxing after a vaccine?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
sorry, I got distracted.
I would
by
just in general, like using essential oils to detox. Is that a thing?
Using essential oils to detox isn't really a medical thing. You certainly can use essential oils for some of the issues you may have after having a vaccine. So, for example, sometimes your arm will hurt. It's totally fine to apply a little bit of lavender to help with the ache and the pain. Or if you're feeling a little nauseous or feverish or something along those lines, essential oils can certainly help with the symptoms, but as far as detoxing goes, that's not the intention.
Yeah. Okay. Is it safe to do oil pulling for those who with dental implants?
That would be a great question for your dentist. I do not know.
Not us. I was like, Katrina. April likes
Doing it in the shower.
doing it in the shower
Oil
for
pulling.
everyone who's curious. Just kidding. I'm sorry, April, but it really kind of was funny.
Giggle.
And they thought it was funny, which is why I went there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I because of the passion I have about ingesting essential oils anyways, I do want to talk a little about like safe ways to ingest essential oils. Not that first I actually, let's start here. So Katrina had mentioned earlier, so there's a lot of reasons. We've talked about some of the reasons and quickly mentioned some of the reasons we don't recommend ingesting essential oils. But something that I want to add is the FDA, although essential oils from a purity standpoint are not regulated in the US. So people might say sometimes like, did you know that an essential oil only has to have 5% of essential oil in it for a company to claim that it's an essential oil? I'm sorry, that's complete bullcrap. Is that appropriate to say? Because essential oil quality is not regulated at all in the United States. So someone could have 0% essential oil and they could call it essential oil. So that is just a marketing claim. I mean, it's completely and utterly not true. However, the FDA does regulate the category in which essential oils are recognized. So in general, the FDA recognizes essential oils as a cosmetic. You cannot legally recommend the ingestion of a cosmetic. So there are some companies who go and choose to get their essential oils regulated through the FDA as a supplement. Okay, and basically all that means is that you have to have a supplement box on the back, and that's all the FDA is regulating. They aren't actually regulating anything with the quality or anything like that when it comes to a supplement. They just aren't. It's just the back of the box just have to have certain criteria and then it's a supplement. I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
They really are not regulating it. So even though some essential oil companies will choose to go get their essential oils labeled as a supplement, the quality, the actual use of it, the way that they're recommending how to use it, none of that is regulated. It's just not regulated. I know that is pretty intense, Rita. I told you I'm passionate about this because I did a lot of research because when I became an aromatherapist, I wrote on can essential oils be ingested. So I've done a lot of research. Plus, just having worked here for almost 9 years, I've done a lot of research. Anyway, so supplements, the only really thing that means if an essential oil has a supplement label, it means that legally they can say you can ingest it because it's officially a supplement in the FDA's eyes. That's it. No quality change, they can now recommend, like their recommendations on how to use it is safe, how many drops to ingest, like none of that is true. The FDA is just like, okay, it has the proper supplement label on the back. You can now call it a supplement, which means you can legally tell someone they can ingest it. So plant therapy, because there's no other benefit to a supplement label, plant therapy has chosen not to go down that path for our essential oils, which means we cannot legally tell someone, yes, you can ingest our essential oils and this is how you do it. So that is one of the big reasons why you will not hear plant therapy recommending the ingestion of essential oils, where you might hear other companies pushing the ingestion of essential oils. It's simply just because of the way the FDA sees or recognizes that product, what category they see that under. And it's just as simple as that.
I think it's also interesting too that the company itself can determine the risk level that it wants to take.
Yep.
A company can determine that it is high risk to sell as a supplement and give these directions and still be able to sell it knowing that they are taking on that risk in the case that there is an adverse reaction and a customer comes back to them. So it's the FDA isn't giving us a risk level. The company itself is deciding that, which is, it's a little scary.
Yeah. Leah says, wow, that's very tricky with the FDA supplement label. So it doesn't exactly make it safe. It 100% does not make it safe. The only time the FDA will step in, one is if you're labeling it incorrectly. Then the FDA will step in and because you have to pay, it's different, you're categorized different with the FDA, you have to pay. So if we just put a supplement label on our essential oils, the FDA would come and be like, you can't do that because you haven't paid us the money to call it a supplement, right? The only other reason the FDA will step in is if there have been enough adverse reaction reports directly to the FDA that they feel like, okay, hold on a second, we might have a problem here, and then the FDA will step in. But that's it. A label could say, a supplement label could say, take 1,000 of these pills, and the FDA is not going to care unless people start having adverse reactions, and then they're going to step in. So it 100% does not mean that it is safe just because it has a supplement. Just because it has a supplement label and it says take this amount, that doesn't mean it's safe. Which is tricky.
It is, and it's so important to explain to people. I mean, I had no idea until I started working in product development and the regulatory team. Like, you just want to assume that what companies are giving you, that back supplement label is so comprehensive. It's got all these warnings and these capital letters and
which are requirements by the supplement label, by
the way you have to if you look at our CBD, for instance, that's a supplement, so you'll see, it has the supplement label, and down to the font size,
down to the line width of the box. That's what the FDA
is regulated.
That is what is regulated. Plant therapy could not legally say ingest our essential oils because we don't have a supplement label. It's as easy as that. It's not because of the quality. It's not because, we're, extra safe, although we are extra safe for other reasons. But it's just because we don't pay that. We haven't submitted all of that for our essential oils to be supplement because we just don't see the benefit of it.
I think I'm seeing a little bit of confusion, maybe I'm seeing this wrong. An herbal supplement as opposed to a supplement that's filled with essential oil. Like a pill filled with essential oils is going to be much different than a pill that's filled with the botanical, the actual botanical material. Yeah. That's much more gentle, and for information on that, you would want to find an herbalist. Yeah. But safety-wise, they are very different. That essential oil is going to be 100 times what is the actual plant material in that herbal capsule.
Yeah. And some people are saying that that they take supplements that have essential oils in the supplements. That might be safe. So we're not saying that you can never ingest essential oils and it cannot be done safely. most of the time, the recommendation to ingest essential oils is not done by someone who really knows the risks or the safety or the actual benefit of it. That is the reality. And so that's what we're recommending. If someone says, you know, go and put these however many X drops in your water, don't do it. Someone says, you know, take 10 drops of this every single day, it's not going to be safe. But you can ingest essential oil safely. You absolutely can. So for those who have supplements that says that it has an essential oil in it, I would just research the company, make sure you trust the company, make sure you believe that they have the expertise to formulate those supplements, because it can be done safely. And if it is being done safely, most likely that supplement has like 1 drop.
Right.
Of an essential oil in it. Not
if that, right?
If
because
that.
you can add a minute amount to a large batch. It may even have less than that.
Yeah, and that probably is going to be safe if they know what they're doing. So you can, if something has essential oil in it, that doesn't mean like, oh my goodness, you have to stop taking it. It's absolutely, completely not safe. That is not the case at all. You can for sure ingest essential oil safely. I would just make sure you research the company and you trust that they have the expertise to tell you. I mean, it goes for anything, right? Like plant therapy, we just are sitting here saying supplements really don't mean anything, and you know, like the FDA doesn't regulate it, but hey, our CBD is a supplement, right? And we are telling you that you can ingest our CBD safely. We have the expertise to do that. And with the research that's been done and the studies that have been done, we have the expertise to say, here's a safe amount to take, right?
And we believe in being transparent, right? So if you have questions about anything that we recommend, including our dietary supplements, the CBD products, absolutely reach out to us, and we're happy to provide any information that we can that will be beneficial. And I think that's how you want to approach working with other supplement companies that not only use essential oils, but create supplements in general, because the regulation, as you now know, is not, super regulated as far as like potency or things like that. So it's important to work with companies that you can trust and you can ask questions to, and who will be open and honest and transparent with you. And I think if you find a company that does that, you can rest assured that you're in good hands, right? If you're working with someone who will lay it all out for you, that's what you need in order to feel safe.
Especially with this topic and just talking about the FDA, and I love seeing your guys' comments on how kind of shocked you are, and yeah, I mean, the FDA, lemon is a gauze oil. You can add it safely to your food, but that, it doesn't mean it's safe across the board.
And it doesn't mean you necessarily should, because probably the lemon rind is probably going to taste a lot better in your food, right? like just because it, like Katrina's saying, just because it's generally, right, you have to really pay attention. It is generally recognized as safe if you use it as food flavoring. And when you're using it as food flavoring, you're going to do a whole pan of lemon bars, and you're going to probably use a couple drops of lemon essential oil, right? And that lemon bar pan is going to feed, it depends on how much you love lemon bar, but it's probably going to feed multiple people. So you're probably getting, maybe a quarter drop of lemon essential oil, not even, in your lemon bar, right?
Which is incorporated with all those other ingredients.
So it's completely improperly diluted. Yeah.
The other thing is when you're using the actual fruit, for example, with a lemon, when lemon, you get more of the benefits that don't transfer over to the essential oil or the cold pressed oil, especially when we're looking at some of your steam distilled products. Those are just the volatile constituents, so you don't get some of those heavier constituents that transfer over. So it's actually more therapeutic to use the whole fruit versus, the essential.
And I love that point, because we've talked about distillation in the past and the different types of distillation. And CO2 distillation gives you more of the whole plant material. So when you're looking at a GCMS report from a CO2 or a steam distilled, often a steam distilled, the GCMS is finding is able to pull, because the GCMS is just looking at the volatile compounds, and it's saying like, all of these volatile compounds make up 99.7% or whatever of the essential oil, right? Which means almost 100% of that is volatile compounds, where often on a CO2, a GCMS report is finding 85%, 60%, right? So the rest of those are not volatile compounds. They are like thick, heavy, amazing, pure plant, right? Just like that is just giving you more of this full plant material. And that, like Emily's saying, like you can see that in a GCMS report when you're looking just at 2 different distillations.
And CO2s are often what are used in food flavorings and things like that, because it is, a more expansive composition.
Yeah, when you're looking at a label and you see an extract after a botanical name, is generally a good indication that it's a CO2.
It's not steam distilled, I can tell you that much. Yeah. Or it's like a copaiba, which is tapped right out of the tree, right? Like,
yes, how amazing is that?
It really is. Where there's really not any process at all besides it's just like maple syrup. Come on, it's so cool. Okay, so you can see we're just a little bit excited about this topic. I really do love this topic. But I haven't seen. I'm trying to think if anybody has. I feel like we've just kind of like vomited this information on you.
And we could probably just keep going.
In a very passionate way.
One thing I did want to mention it as we were vomit more at you, but it did come up a little bit earlier. Somebody had mentioned that they had a supplement fact panel on their bottle of oregano. One thing that we get asked a lot is what's the difference between oil of oregano and oregano essential oil? And oftentimes oil of oregano takes the actual herb itself and it's an infusion in a carrier, so like oregano oil in olive oil, and it's extracted over time through that method. And so with that, oil of oregano is generally much safer because it's just that herb that's been infused in a carrier oil versus straight oregano essential oil. And I can tell you, oregano essential oil, it's one of the most aggressive essential oils there is. So be very, very clear what you're purchasing when you're purchasing if you're wanting to ingest oil of oregano.
Yeah, I have a funny two stories that are related to oregano. So Chris Jones, the owner of Plant Therapy, was at one of our retail stores. This was years and years ago, probably right after one of our retail stores opened. And a gentleman came in and he was like, I'm looking for oregano oil. Chris is like, okay, let me help you. And he was like, I ingest it daily and all this. And Chris is like, oh, I think you're actually looking for oil of oregano. And he was like, no, I'm looking for oregano essential oil. And Chris is like, I really don't think you are. And the guy's like, yes, I am. And anyways, they kind of had this little banter going because Chris is trying to explain to him the difference. And he was like, nope, this is what I'm looking for. So right in the store, he purchases it and he opens it up and he puts it in his mouth. I mean, it's kind of funny because it was not what he was looking for. And Chris said he freaked out. So I hear this story. You're going to learn a lot about me as a rebellious person. I hear this story and I think, I wonder how I would react if I put oregano essential oil in my mouth. So I'm at home and I have oregano essential oil. And Chris said he had put a couple drops on his tongue. So I was like, I'm just going to be a little bit more safe and I'm just going to put 1 drop in my mouth of oregano essential oil. Immediately, that touched my mouth and immediately I started to vomit. You guys, the intensity of a pure oregano essential oil, and I was like, it was burning. I was putting milk and bread, trying to you guys, do not put even 1 drop of oregano essential oil in your mouth. And if you do and you don't have a reaction, I can pretty much guarantee you now you are not using a pure oregano essential oil.
Yes.
Because it is so intense. The intensity of it. Woo!
It made my stomach turn just listening to you.
Mine too. I have some experiences of some things growing up using essential oils. I have some stories that are pretty fun. I've learned my lesson. I have burned myself and my children My children only once. I learned, but myself multiple times. I learned much slower. Anyways, there you go. It's not the same thing. Okay, I don't know what's happening on here. I think we've lost.
Yeah. I don't know.
Sometimes we have to refresh.
Should I refresh?
Yeah, might as well. But I think we're about time. Oh, there it goes. It just unloaded. But we're gonna
Now it's
refresh
done.
anyways. Any last questions, or are you guys just like wanting to get rid of us and our intensity?
No questions on Instagram.
Thanks for taking one for the team, Retha. You know, Jenna, anytime. That's what I'm here for. I have some stories. I have some stories about putting germ fighter in my bath, undiluted. I have some stories about, I have some stories. We learn, right? We learn, and it's fine. It's fine. We're all gonna be fine. Okay.
All right.
Any last words of wisdom you want to give?
Don't add lemon to your water.
Don't add lemon to
If
water.
you have one takeaway.
Don't put an oregano essential oil drop on your tongue.
And be curious.
Be
know,
curious. That's such a
Be
good
curious.
word.
Like, find some really credible sources of information if this is something you're really interested and passionate about. There's, again, like I said, a lot of committees and associations related to aromatherapy that have some excellent information on this topic.
Yeah. I do see some customers asking for JCAM, which is the acronym for July Customer Appreciation Month. They're asking for some hints.
Which is next month.
Which is next month,
Oh,
yes.
Somehow.
I know. Maybe on our next live we'll come up with some hints and give everyone some hints for our
Little
July
sneaky
Customer
hints.
Appreciation Month.
I like that.
Okay, thanks for joining, everyone. We hope you still feel the same about us after that intense show. But you know how passionate we are about essential oils, the education, the knowledge, the transparency. And I hope that you can see that. And like Katrina said, do that research, stay curious, question things, learn for yourselves, do what you feel most comfortable doing with you and your family, and have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Okay. Got it. We got